Today, as we today the Chodesh Tammuz, coming up to Gimel Tammuz.
Rabbi Brooklyn, it's Jeannie. I cannot get in. Not letting me in.
Oh, we don't let you in. Don't let everybody in. Not everybody's allowed in.
But she's in the room.
I'll open the door for you. So, okay. I buzzed him in. So I don't get the buzzes. I get in the office. But I can. I get a buzz. It's life. So the Alter Rebbe, the Gimel Tammuz is the yard site of the Rebbe, and a Rebbe comes down to reveal godliness in the world. That's the most important thing of a Rebbe, of a leader, a Jewish leader from Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the first Jewish leader in Am Yisrael. His avodah, his service, is to bring godliness to the world. That means even though godliness is in the world, everybody has an neshama, everybody has a godly soul. So godliness in the world. The point of a nasi, the point of a tzaddik, is to reveal godliness, that the person feels godly, and that's a service, and that's why the way you connect to a Rebbe, the way we're learning Tanya, we're connecting to the Alter Rebbe. The way you connect to a tzaddik is learning his Torah, learning his Torah. So even though we're learning Tanya, which is the Alter Rebbe, but most of the Tanya, the way we learn is through the teaching of the Rebbe himself, who taught the Tanya in his way of teaching, through his knowledge, his chachma, and that's the way we learn. So in essence, we're not only connecting to the Alter Rebbe, we're connecting here to the Rebbe himself, who is a connection to these great tzaddikim who came about to reveal godliness in the world. When a Rebbe said a maimah, when a Rebbe said a discourse, he in essence opened up our eyes. He opened up gates to for every one of us to be able to uplift ourselves through these teachings, through these learnings, to be able to look at life through a different kind of a window, through different kind of eyeglasses, and to be able to see life in more of a spiritual way, if we can. Each one according to his capability, to be able to see life in a different kind of a way, to even see the teaching of Torah in a different kind of a way. And the Rebbe would always say that the Torah was given to every Jew. It's not over here that there's exclusivity in the learning of Torah, that somebody has some kind of VIP connections over here, because the Torah is the chachma of the Eibishter. The Torah is the wisdom of God, which God gave every Jew. God gave every Jew, inherited to every Jew the concept of learning Torah, the capability to learn Torah, and through the learning of Torah to have another reality, to be able to have another reality. Because wherever we are in the world, the Eibishter knows, as the verse says in the beginning of Genesis, God says, I know that I've given you the challenge. I've given you your Yetzer Hara. I've given you your challenge in life. It's not something that you acquired. I've given you the challenge. You might argue with me and say why we have a challenge. The Eibishter says, you'll ultimately one day thank me for the challenge. But ultimately, I've given you this challenge, and I've given you all the tools. A person cannot say that he doesn't have the capability to deal with the challenge, because as Chassidus over here, the Alter Rebbe is explaining, as we mentioned last week, we're holding in the middle of chapter 22 of Tanya, I believe 23 of Tanya. We're holding on page 96, 96, 97. The Alter Rebbe over here talks about Ratzin, which God gives the concept of will, the Ratzin of a person, that we should connect our Ratzin to God's Ratzin. Because when you have Ratzin, even in the human body, we know that every attribute that we have, from wisdom to all the 10 attributes of a human being, in those 10 attributes, every attribute has its place. Chachma is in the head, it's not in the heart. Emotions are in the heart, it's not in the head. Two different realities. You have to connect them together. You have to know how to infuse one with the other. But every entity has their purpose. The Eibishter created the hands to do action. The Eibishter created the feet to walk. He created the heart to feel. And he created the brain to think. But then he created an attribute, he created a concept which is above all of them, and which ultimately affects all of them. And that is not saying, that is the will of a person. Makim sheratzin is shaladam, where a person's ratzin is, shamonim, so there is where the person is, wherever he might be. And you can be even physically in one place and at the same moment be in a different place, because your ratzin has that power, has that capability. So you can uplift yourself. You can be in a dungeon and then be in a very high place at the same time. You can be happy in any place you are if you really wanted to be happy in any place you are. Because nothing stands within the will of a person, and a person can be wherever his ratzon wants him to be. And therefore, you should always be happy. Because that is your true ratzon. That's really where your true ratzon is. Your true ratzon of a person is to be happy. And that's what the Rebbe wanted to accomplish in everybody, the concept of simcha, to be happy. Because everybody should be happy. Even though they might be in situations that is maybe making them unhappy. But they should be happy nevertheless. And that is the power that God gives us each and every one of us. So therefore, we're holding on the bottom of the page of 96, the left column. Here the Alter Rebbe introduced us to the concept. He introduced us before already also to the concept of the others. As Jews, in the Torah, we call three people others, and imois, patriarchs and matriarchs. You remember the song on Pesach? There are three patriarchs and there are four matriarchs. Three patriarchs, others, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. The four matriarchs is Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. Why do we call them patriarchs? Why do we call them others? These are people that lived thousands of years ago. Why would we call Avram Avinu, Abraham, our father in this present moment that we call him? He's our father. Why we call Yitzchak Avinu in this present moment that he's our father? He's not our father. He's not our biological father. The answer is because the concept of a father and a mother is what they give to their child, to their offsprings. What they give to what they inherit to them. I don't know what I mean inherited to 120 years, but what they inherently, the Gemara says, what a father and mother give to their child. Not through their actions, but their inner aspects, what they give to their child. Each and every one of them give to their child something. That's why it says, the Gemara says, Alter Rebbe brings down in Tanya, in the first chapter of Tanya, that it's important, the machshava of the parents. It's important to the thought of their parents at the time of conception of their child. That it depends on their thoughts. What was their thoughts at this conception that gives the quality, the characteristics to the child. That doesn't mean gives the challenges. In essence, the Gemara is saying that the truth is that the challenges that the child might have might be given to them by the parents in their thoughts at the time of conception. What was their thought? What was their thought process? Were they thinking holy things? Were they thinking negative things? What was their thought? So we can give the character the character to the child. The handicap that doesn't take away from the free choice of the child. That doesn't mean that a person that is born had parents who had evil thoughts means that they are incapable of accomplishing things in life. Because ultimately, the child has free choice to take his character and use it for negativity or to use it for positivity. But it's all, in essence, the Ratzin. What was the Ratzin? Even David HaMelech says that I've been born, that's what the Goyim took the statement of David HaMelech, I've been born in sin. And he meant was, Chazal say, that his parents really his parents, if you know the story, his father didn't want a relationship with his mother, and it was a mistake. The relationship they had The night that David HaMelech was conceived was born. It was a oops, so to say. He thought he was living with somebody else. Whatever, you can go to the whole story, that story of David HaMelech. Whatever. So David HaMelech expressed that in essence, I was not born in a loving, willingful relationship. I was born they weren't together there because they wanted to be. He's thinking about something else. He was maybe thinking about something. I don't know. They came together. They created me. But it worked out well for him. But we know that David HaMelech was a struggling Jew. With all his greatness, he didn't have an easy life. You can look at Tillah, you can see that David HaMelech had a struggling life. He had a struggling not only from the outside, from the inside. He struggled all his life. And he overcame his struggles, but still he struggled in life. And he expresses it in Tillim. You can look in Tillim, Psalms. David HaMelech expresses his hardships in the life that he had. That he didn't have an easy life. But nevertheless, David HaMelech, free choice. In his free choice, he became what he was. And he overcame his struggles to become the ultimate Melech, the ultimate king of the Jewish nation. For him, for all generations, the God gives him and his offsprings, Ad Olam, the Kisa Malchus, the throne of kingship. So we know that kingship, we know that kingship is not an easy thing to accomplish. To become a ruler of your existence, it comes through struggle. To become a king over yourself is not an easy thing to do, because there's too many issues sometimes. There's too many issues to overcome to become a real melech. That's why melech, it's brought down melech, the word melech, which is mem lamed chaf, which is a concept of king, is mayach, lev, and kavod. Mayach, lev, and kavod. Mayach is the mind, the lev, the heart, the kavod, the liver, which is symbolic to the cleansing process of the blood in a human being. So to be able to have mind over matter and ultimately to sift through things in life and differentiate between what is right and what's wrong, and what I should choose and why I shouldn't choose, it's a melech, it's real kingship. That's why it says, Eizu Giber, the real giver in the Torah is not somebody who conquers a country. Somebody who can control himself, who can have self-control over himself. And that's not an easy thing. And therefore, it should be the Eibishter says, I receive a real nachas ruch from that. I receive a real pleasure from this concept when a Yid becomes a melech, when a Yid becomes his own king, so to say. When a Jew overcomes that challenge. It's not something that I take for granted, because I know the challenge I give him. I know exactly the challenges that I give him. You should realize another greatness of a Rebbe. Why do Yidden go to a Rebbe for a bracha? Why do we go to a Rebbe? Go to the Eibishter for a bracha. Go to God for a bracha. Why do you need to go to a Rebbe for a bracha? Really, go to the Eibishter. Go to God. That's your daven every day. So why would you go to a Rebbe for a bracha? And the answer is, first of all, that anybody can give a bracha. Everybody gives a bracha. The Gemara says, no bracha should be simple in your eyes. If a Jew gives you a bracha, a Yid can give a bracha. Another Jew can give you a bracha, and they should give you a bracha. And you should give brachas. You should give blessings. So we give you a bracha, Elliot. We should give you a full shlema. It's not even though I'm not tzaddik at least over here. So whatever. Don't be a bracha is not a simple thing when a Yid gives another person a bracha. What is the great thing about tzaddik? So why you go for a tzaddik for a bracha? Because the tzaddik feels the pain of the other person. The tzaddik feels the pain of the other person.
Does Hashem?
And surely Hashem too. But when another person, when the Eibishter, that's why when another person can feel your pain, to the Eibishter, that is an unbelievable concept in this world, to feel somebody else's pain. Most people ask you, how are you? They don't want to hear the answer. Only if it's whatever, I won the lottery. But if that, yeah, how really, the people want to hear tzaddis. People don't want to hear another person's tzaddis because they don't want to put themselves in that situation. Because a lot of times they cannot put themselves in that. You can't even blame them. They cannot put themselves in that situation. It's difficult to put yourself in a situation of somebody else's real tzad, somebody else's real pain. When the Eibishter says, when God says that I am with you in your pain, it's not just a nice, headline. The Eibishter says, I'm with you in your pain. I'm with you in your pain. When the Eibishter says, when you say in your Haggadah, that lo yodei malach v'lo yodei shliach, but the Eibush himself came down to Mitzrayim. It's a very deep concept. You should realize that concept. That when you say in your Haggadah, we say that the Eibush, God Himself, not through an angel, not through what would be bad if you came through an angel or through what would be so terrible. Well, that's also great. What's the difference? At least we get out of Gullah. So who cares that the Eibush himself came down to Egypt? What is important? That's later on. But the Eibush, that's later on. Yeah, that's later on. That's later on. But the Eibush just says that I am coming down to you, Mitzrayim. The Eibush still wants to tell you that He is here in your pain. Like a tzaddik who, when he hears another Jewish pain, he is in the pain. He is in the pain of another Jew. There's a beautiful word yesterday on the Pasha. You see, if you listen to the Pasha, you'll see that it mentions 4 times in the Pasha. There's about Kere here. Vayipal Apanav, Moshe Rabbeinu fell on his face. And he keeps on saying that, and then it says Moshe and Aaron fell on their face. Vayipal Apanav. And one time it says in the Pasha that Moshe Rabbeinu, God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Hirimu Matecha, uplift yourself in this congregation. Uplift yourself from these people. And I'll get rid of them. And what happens? What does Moshe Rabbeinu do after that statement? Vayipal upon him. He falls down on his face. And the Parshim say that Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, I don't want to uplift myself from the people. I want to actually go down to the people. I want to actually go in their pain. I don't want to uplift myself from this situation. I don't want to uplift myself and he could have himself understood. Moshe Rabbeinu was uplifted from the situation. He was greater than the situation. He had nothing to do with this whole situation. As he tells Kedach, I have nothing involved in this situation. You have the problem with God. You don't have a problem with me. You're not having a fight that there's 2 people fighting over here. You're having a fight with yourself. You're having a fight, your own personal struggle. It's nothing to do with me because hey, take over everything. If God says it's yours, I give it over. I'm not demanding anything over here. Neither is my brother Aaron demanding anything over here. But when the Eibush says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Haribu, uplift yourself in this community and step up. Moshe Rabbeinu says no. Moshe Rabbeinu says no. I want to be part of this situation. I want to be part of the situation. And no, he said, Harimu, look at the word, Harimu, uplift yourself. And Moshe Rabbeinu responds by Yipapanov. He falls down to the ground. So this the sages tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm a tzaddik. I care about the people. I'm not here to do something negative to the people. I'm trying to figure out a way to uplift the people, not to uplift myself on the people, but actually how do I feel the pain of the people? So maybe I can give them a way to uplift themselves. Yeah.
So I was reading this Shabbos, Rabbi Sachs had an essay. Can you talk a little louder? Oh, I'll try. This Shabbos I was reading Rabbi Sachs on what you were talking about, and he said that part of why Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't go into Israel is because he did take personally the
responsible.
And he did, he didn't act like in a leadership role, but it was personalized.
That's a medrash. You can go from here and there and never ending. Whatever.
Okay.
You can mefarish the Torah in many different ways. Self-understood.
A lot of reasons.
So there's a lot of concepts in it. A lot of
Why
concepts.
he could not enter.
But later on, Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't answer tzlafcha. The Gemara says, why doesn't he answer tzlafcha? Because he felt he was. Moshe Rabbeinu felt he was involved, even though Hitaka wasn't. But again, the Moshe Rabbeinu felt in a certain level, in everything that he did, he was involved. Moshe Rabbeinu took upon himself that the Yidden didn't go on into Eretz Yisrael because of the fault of his leadership. He didn't take it as the fault of the people. He took it as the fault of his leadership, that he wasn't the ultimate leader, and therefore he doesn't deserve any kind of credit in this situation. But the Eibishter, but that's the nivus of Moshe, self-understood. That's the humility of Moshe Rabbeinu. That he felt that he took the responsibility, and that's the greatness of leadership. That even if it's not your responsibility, it's your responsibility, because if you're a leader, you take responsibility. That's a famous Gemara. The Gemara says that a person that murders somebody unintentional, he's in the city of refuge until the Kohen Gadol passes away. What does the Kohen Gadol have to do with his unintentional murder? But the Kohen Gadol has to take responsibility. He has to take, as a Kohen Gadol, as a person who represents Yidden to the Eibishter, it's his responsibility, even though it's not his responsibility. Who's going to blame the Kohen Gadol that Yankel killed somebody? What does he have to do with it? What does he have to do with him? He has nothing to do with him. It's not his brother. It's not his uncle. He's not his friend. It's a Jew living, who knows with it. But it's a Kohen Gadol's responsibility. That's true leadership. Not running away from responsibility, but taking responsibility. And that was Moshe. But that's really, in essence, it's their responsibility. It is their responsibility. They took upon themselves the responsibility. So let's go to here. So the Alter Rebbe says, this is why the sages meant when they said the patriarchs were truly a chariot of God. Now we understand why when the Zohar wants to say the greatness of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, why we coined them as Avos, as patriarchs of the Jewish nation. We don't give this name. The sages didn't throw out names when they called the Avos the patriarchs, when they called Moshe Rabbeinu, when they called a person a Nasi. These were not names that they just gave out labels. These were names that were connected to who they are, to emphasize their greatness of what they brought to Am Yisrael. And what did they bring to Am Yisrael, the patriarchs? Is that they were a chariot of God, meaning that they were taka true parents, avos, parents. They lost their individualism as humans, as regular people. Avos, they became avos. They became parents. Parents, they gave up their identity in a way. Which that's a good parent, a parent that gives up his identity. Comes a parent. And therefore, in Torah, you can be a parent, whether you're physically a parent or not physically a parent. Everybody can be a parent. When Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov gave themselves up for Jews. For the future generation. Think about it. If you, in a simple term, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov gave up their life for a promise, not even to them, right? Not even to their immediate offsprings, not even to the generations of generations ahead of them. Right? So Avraham Avinu was promised Eretz Yisrael. They got it hundreds of years later, 400 years later. Right? So it's great. I don't know what number. Okay, it's a lot of numbers. Whatever. Generations. It's like 10 generations later. Imagine you say, give your life away for 10 generations later. Who's going to do that?
Unless God asks.
Hey, God does ask you. God does ask you. Give yourself away for greater cause. We're not ready to give ourselves away to greater cause. Totally. We all have surrender for a greater cause. Right? The Eibishter says, give yourself away for the cause, for the Jewish cause. Who's ready to give themselves totally to the Jewish cause? If it fits into my schedule. I'll give what I'll give. I'll donate some time. I'll give a charity of time. Maybe she's looking for a donation of a volunteer. This is volunteerism. This whole thing is to volunteer yourself. You mean you have a busy life, but you can find some time where you can volunteer your time. Volunteers never pander out in the long run. Maybe that's why it's a job, not a volunteer. You're getting paid. We're the workers of the day. We get paid, right? But really, it's a life commitment. Eibishter wants a commitment. Wants a commitment. Really, the Eibishter wants a commitment more than anything else. The commitment itself, the concept of a commitment, right? Well, what did the Jews do by Matan Torah? They instead of commitment, they didn't know the Torah yet, right? Even before the Torah was given, the Eibishter wanted us the commitment. Are you committed? Right? When you go into the chuppah, you get married, right? You're committed. Nobody knows what's going to happen. That's why some of us have tzaddis. Because then you get married, and then you realize, whoa, this is more than just a commitment. This is more than just a party. This is obligations. There's obligations, and there's strings attached. A lot of strings attached. Right? That's why you heard the joke. The life is like a tea bag. First, it makes sense. Then you get the hot water. But then you realize there's strings attached. So, right. So it's a commitment. It's not easy. That's why people struggle with it in the concept. The relationship is a struggle. They still wanted a commitment. Are you committed? Then we'll go to the next step. If you don't have a commitment, then how we can go to the next step of obligations and responsibilities? We need a commitment. Are we committed to each other? Yes or no? Let's be committed, and then once you're committed, you're institutionalized already. You're committed to the institution, and that's really Kaballah. That's why the Torah says the most important thing is Kaballah soil, accepting the yoke of heaven, the commitment. Right? We know it's going to be a struggle. Things you want to do, things you don't want to do, things you agree with. But are you committed? Right? So therefore, even if you'll fall aside, you'll fall away from it. You'll still be committed. If you're not committed, then the second something's a challenge and you're out. And therefore, the patriarchs were totally committed. And that's what you think about it. The patriarchs never given one commandment. Their greatness was their commitment. Hineni. Whatever the Eibishter wanted, Hineni, their commitment. They were not commanded one mitzvah, even though the Chazal tell us, the Medrash says that they did all the mitzvahs. But they were never commanded besides one mitzvah, Bris Milah, B'Avram Avinu. Right? Well, what was their greatness? They were committed.
First driverless vehicle, the chariot of God.
Correct. Hineni. That's why Avraham Avinu's statement is Hineni. Here I am. And that's why you can overcome all your challenges. That's why it says that Avraham Avinu had 10 challenges and he overcame all the challenges. Why? Because he was committed. When you're committed to a journey, when you're committed to a concept, doesn't mean you're going to have an easy time, but you're committed. You're committed. You're committed.
Esther Youngblood.
Yes.
The great Esther Youngblood wrote a book,
Hineni.
The Committed Life.
Hineni. Well, that was her organization. But her organization was Hineni. Here I'm live. Here I am. Here I am. That's it. Hineni. Here I am. It's going to be not totally, but I am. I'll be at 10%, I'll be at 20%, I'll be at 50%, I'll try to be 100%, but I'm here. Hineni, the commitment. That's why the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, you're not allowed, you don't have to obligate to finish a job. But you cannot give up on it. You gotta be committed to the job. Nobody, unless you're a tzaddik, you can complete a job. As a Jew, you got to be committed to the job. Sometimes you do it 100%, hopefully. Sometimes you do it 50%. Sometimes you do it 25%. Sometimes but you're committed. That's what the Rebbe said. There's a mistake. I put it on my Facebook last week. That there's a mistake that people divide Jews between religious Jews and non-religious Jews. It's a mistake. No such thing as a religious Jew or non-religious Jew. Every Jew is committed. We're all committed. Some people are doing more, some people are doing less. That doesn't change the commitment. Doing more, doing less doesn't change the initial commitment. Sure, everybody should be 100%. No question about it. Why, like a marriage. Doesn't make a difference if you're a perfect marriage or an imperfect marriage. You're still married. Right? Still married. Still a marriage. Not every marriage is 100% perfect. Not every marriage is decided that if you're only 10% married, then you're not married. 90% you're not married. You're married. The second you went under the chuppah, you're married 100%. You might not be 100% happy, but you're married 100%. You're married 100%. There's no difference in the concept of marriage, whether you are happily married or you're very unhappily married. Whether you're killing each other or you're pashut and having the most amazing time with each other. It doesn't make a difference. You're both married. We are married to God. We are committed to God. God is committed to us. Sure, we should be 100%. Nobody's going. We should have a happy marriage between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We should be happily married. But if we're not happily married, we're unhappy, we're not married. Still married. And that's what the Eibush should look. You should realize that. The Eibush is looking for commitment. The Eibush says, I'm married to you forever. Finished. I'm committed. If you're looking for my commitment, I'm committed. For all the organs were completely holy. So by them, they were totally committed. They had no issues. That's why I say in the Torah, you look at Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, these great sages, great avos, they made patriarchs and their wives, their imais. Wherever they went out, Vayetze, Vayove, wherever they went out, that's where they came to. The journey came to a completion. They accomplished. Because they were committed to the purpose and nothing stopped them. I mean, they had a lot of challenges on the way, but it didn't get them off their purpose. They went out, they came. They reached their purpose. By us, we go out and we get fablunged. We get fablunged. We want to go, you know what I mean? Fablunged. We get lost on the way. Right? Everybody wakes up in the morning and they want to accomplish and they want to do a great day, and we get fablunged suddenly in the course of the day. We suddenly get sidetracked. And then we forgot that we got up to have a good day. We got up to, who wakes up in the morning to have a bad day? We got up to have a great day. We get fablunged. Suddenly we are lost. We're lost on the way. Why? Because that should be your focus, and that should be your goal.
To me, it's all about developing a more consciousness.
So that's it. Melech, that's consciousness. Malchus. You have moyach shal mind over matter. Matter is giving you problems. The mind tells you that you got to keep focused. You cannot let the problems distract you. Can't let the problems take you over. And that was the patriarch. That's why they were called a chariot. They were a chariot who said they're giving themselves over to the purpose, to the committed. They're committing themselves to a purpose. That's why the Gemara says that every Jew should say, Masa yagia maise lamaise avaise. Every Jew should say to himself, I want to be like that way. I want to be that way. I want to be that way. I want to be a person who has a purpose. I want to be a person who knows his purpose and is focused on his purpose and does his purpose. And you know, like the Rebbe said last week on Thursday, that what was the expression in the Sikha we learned here? The Rebbe said that if a person doesn't know his purpose, if a person doesn't know his purpose, there's a lack in the whole creation. He should realize that it's not only that it's a lack in his service and what he's missing something in his own journey. It's in the journey of the world. Because everybody was created for the purpose of the world, and he has to find his purpose, and he has to make it the pole, so to say, in front of you. You have to create that purpose in front of you, and you need to not divert from the purpose. And it's not an easy thing to do. But you have to do it. That's what you have to do. Because if not, you're going to get verblunget. You're going to get lost on this crazy world, crazy journey that each and every one of us goes through in life. So serving as a vehicle solely for the supernal will alone throughout their lives. And that was the Avos. That was the patriarch. What is our purpose? In a simple way, what is our purpose? Our purpose, maybe he gave us that pole. He gave us that purpose. He didn't hide from us. He didn't say, everybody ask me, so what's my purpose? It's no secret. The general purpose that the Eibishter gave each and every one of us in a very particular way, he gave us the Torah. He gave us the Torah. And the Torah that he gave each and every one of us is something that each and every one of us can learn. It's simply a learning process. Because you need to learn your purpose. It's not something that you can find anywhere. It's something that you have to learn. A purpose is a learning process. And then you learn the Torah, and you take your character and now put it together. Take the learning, go learn Torah, learn Chumash every day, learn Torah, and say, okay, now how do I take that learning? Does what I learned today have anything to do with me? Alter Rebbe said the famous statement that a Jew should live at the times. And what he meant was the parsha of the week. Not that every week has another parsha. It's not just because the sages wanted to figure out how to divide the Torah up into 52 weeks. Every portion has something to do with the Jew that opens up the Chumash that day. And try to figure out what does the today's portion have to do, today's reading that you read today, or you're going to read today. What does this parsha have to do with me? Might not be easy. And therefore, sometimes you got to learn the commentaries. Maybe you can find there, what does the portion have to do with me? Right? So this portion of today, Chukas, we start the law of a paraduma, the red heifer. What does the red heifer have to do? What is this possible? What does this whole thing have to do with me? How does this connect to me? How does it connect to me today? Right? And I cannot tell you what it is, because every person has to learn Torah themselves. I have to learn the Torah and figure out what does that have to do with me. Now you got to learn the Torah and figure it out. What does that have to do with you? And that's what the Mishnah says. It's very important Mishnah. The Mishnah says, if a person says, I've searched and I've not found, don't believe him. And if a person would even say, I didn't search and I found, don't believe him. Because it's not an easy thing. Person that says, I've searched and I've found, you believe him. Because you got to search. It's not a kindergarten rhyme book. Torah has within it, the Torah came to give you, to uplift you today. And this week is Parshas Chukas. So whenever a person asks a person, what is this week? Is Parshas Chukas. The whole week is Parshas Chukas. The week of Chukas. The Rebbe would say, what is the lesson, general lesson of the week? Is that it's engraved. Chukas means it's engraved. It's engraved within you. And that's why it's the deepest concepts of the Torah, is today actually in this week's portion. Starts off this week's portion, that even Shlomo HaMelech says, I cannot comprehend this mitzvah. I cannot comprehend the Parah Adumah. It's far behind me to understand the Parah Adumah, to understand this mitzvah. Right? So the first Rashi says, in this week's Parsha, the first Rashi says that this mitzvah is so deep that a Jew cannot say, that a Jew cannot ask a question, why? Right? First Rashi. The Eibishter gave a mitzvah that demands on a Jew to say, I have no permission to ask any questions. Person should realize the depth of Torah, the wisdom of God, that he should ultimately say, I don't have a right to ask a question, even though I do ask questions, and I do demand explanation, but really the truth is, I don't have a right to ask any questions. Really, in the depths of the issue, as a Yid, I don't have a right to ask any questions. It's the Chachma of the Eibush, it's the wisdom of God. How can I ask a question? So if a big professor came in and gave a lecture, you're going to ask a question. Right? You're going to ask a question. You don't even understand what he's talking about. You're going to ask a question. But we have chutzpah as Jews, we ask the question. But that we realize only because we have chutzpah. Everybody has to say something, so they have to ask a question, show somebody else that's smart. But the truth is, you don't have a right to ask a question because it's too deep for you to even ask the question. The concept is truly much more deeper than the question you're going to ask.
But we have the right to ask the question.
You have the right to ask the question. No, I'm not saying you don't have the right to ask the question, but ultimately realize, as Shlomo HaMelech said, I asked the question, and I realized that it's too deep for me. That not everything I can understand. And the truth is, that's the beauty of this concept. That a person should ultimately ask the question. I'm not saying you should not ask the question. Person, the Shlomo HaMelech asked the question, Moshe Rabbeinu asked the question, what is the mitzvah? Everybody asked the question. And you go, there's a lot of ink spilt on this Parsha, Chukas, ask the question. What is the Parah Adumah? What is its meaning? What is it teaching? What is its comprehension? Ask the question. You're entitled to ask the question. But you have to come sometimes to the conclusion that some things are beyond me. Some things are beyond, and what does it show on me? Even in myself, there are certain things that are chakuk in me, that are engraved in me. They're engraved in me. You see that certain things touch different people. Different things touch different people.
Could you explain a little bit about the relationship or what Chukas means in terms of engraved? What's the
Engraved means it's engraved with like a stone, when something's engraved. When something's engraved on a stone, then the stone becomes the engravement. That's the difference between something that's written on parchment or something that's engraved, like a matzeva is engraved. So something that's on parchment, the parchment and the letter are two different entities. But engraved means is a stone. The stone is the words. The stone is the word. It's not something that is separate from it. It is part of him. That's why cherus and choros come from the same word. Cherus is freedom, and choros is the engraved. You are, each and every one of us are true free people. Because it's engraved, it's who we are. It's not something, that's why Ein Loch Ben Choden, the Mishnah says, a person is truly not free. If you think world gives you freedom, world gives you slavery. It's a different kind of slavery, but the world gives you slavery. Because that is world. World is the concept of slavery. World dictates to you to be in a certain kind of a way. And that's Helem. That's why in Kaballah, Chassidus, world is Helem, is darkness. So most of us think, oh, the world is free. No, the world is not free. Because the world forces you to be in a certain kind of a way. It demands of you to be in a certain kind of a way. The Torah says you should be totally free. You should have total freedom, total bechira chofshis. Total freedom. Because that is engraved in you. That is engraved in you. It's who you are. The founding fathers, even in America, understood that concept in a way, in a small kind of a way. The Eibishter created himself in his image. We all created in the image of God. Freedom and liberty. They themselves only meant, men and white men and etc. But it was not total humanity. So there were limitations to their freedom. Because humans don't understand true freedom. It's a limited freedom. David still wants true freedom. God really wants true freedom. He wants every individual to be free and to serve himself and serve the Eibishter, serve humanity, be free, be an open vessel. Right? Be a melech. Be your own king. Be your own ruler. The Eibishter gave Malchus to each and every one of us. Malchus, be a king. Be a ruler over yourself. Be free. What's a king? Right? Good to be king. Right? Don't we say that? It's good to be king. Why? Because a king can do whatever he wants. Be your own king. Be your own melech. Right? Don't be under the dominion of anybody. Be under the dominion yourself.
So I guess where I got confused is that you said chukas means a grave.
Grave.
Does that mean that the paraduma, the idea of the paraduma is engraved in us?
Yeah,
It is.
it is. Because the paraduma, cleansing and impurity is not a concept of knowledge.
Oh.
Nobody can comprehend the concept of that you become, you're pure and you're pure. What is that? I can take a shower a whole day, I'm still impure. Right? So what is the pshat? What is the pshat, purity and impurity? It's totally elusive. It's totally an elusive concept. People took it as you're clean, you're unclean. Physically cleanliness and spirit and physically uncleanliness. It's not at all of that. It's not at all that. So it's not at all that. But people took it that way. So you talk about dead bodies impure. You touch a dead body, you become impure. What happens exactly? I touch this dead body. What happens? So I change my mekala. What? No, it has nothing to do with your neshama. It has to do with your goof. Nothing with your neshama. Your neshama can't get tainted. Neshama can't get tainted. Let's do what you goof, whatever that means. Again, it's the goof becomes impure is such a deep concept to comprehend this concept. That a woman becomes impure, that a man becomes impure. All these concepts of purity and impurity. And that how you go to the mikveh. Suddenly I dip myself in the water, I become pure. How does that work? How does that work? I take the red heifer and I sprinkle it. What is this? What's going on over here? It's a total above comprehension. And especially in the Torah, that his problem was the Shlomo Melech's problem, that the person who pures, he becomes impure. How does that work? How does the Torah work? The person who makes the red heifer becomes impure, and this thing purifies. How does the one thing do two things? How does the same thing that purifies makes impure, makes the kohen impure? That doesn't make any logical sense. Even if I want to bring into holy logic, how is that possible? How is the purity, how does something that makes something impure make something pure? It has a paradox within itself. So how does that happen? These are deep concepts. How do we have that we are perfect and imperfect at the same time? You know, that's why it says, it's the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos yesterday, I was learning yesterday, the Mishnah says, Al tia rasha b'fnei atzmach. Don't, the Alter Rebbe basis starts the whole Tanya with this statement of Pirkei Avos. Al tia rasha b'fnei, never be wicked in your own eyes. That means even if you know you're wicked, Al tia rasha b'fnei, never say you are wicked. You can say you're doing wicked. Never say you to yourself that you're wicked. That you are wicked. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. It's a Mishnah. Pirkei Avos. Al tia rasha b'fnei atzmacha. Do not look at yourself as wicked. Because your core, you're not wicked. To the core of who you are, you're not wicked. So you think about it. You take two Mishnahs, and that's why three Mishnahs makes some sense. You have one Mishnah says, you're not allowed to be wicked. You're not allowed to say you're wicked. Another Mishnah says, you're not allowed to judge somebody else to be wicked. And the third Mishnah says, we're all righteous. Now it makes sense. You're not allowed to say you're wicked. Nobody's allowed to tell you you're wicked. And therefore, we're all righteous. Now, even though we know that there are other Mishnahs that say it a little bit differently, right? We know. Because you have to take each Mishnah in itself. You have to take each Mishnah in itself. So we know that the Mishnah says that you're not allowed to be wicked. Now, what do you do with the whole Muslim movement? They do this Mishnah too. So in essence, you have to know that you might be doing wicked. You have to know, just like you're not allowed to judge somebody else. You shouldn't call yourself wicked. You shouldn't say, I'm a wicked person. I'm doing wicked things. I got issues. But I am wicked? No, I'm not. I'm a bad person? No. Once you label yourself as wicked, then how do you expect to become better? I'm a wicked person. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a depressed person. Everybody gives themselves a different label. I'm an alcoholic person. I'm a depressed person. I'm a unhappy person. I'm an angry person. We put labels.
Yet on Yom Kippur, we say I'll hate.
Yeah, but that's between us and God. So the Eibishter knows who you are. Between you and God, you confess to the Eibishter. You don't confess to anybody else. You don't confess, no confession to yourself either. Calling yourself wicked is not gaining anything.
Well, actually, it says I have sinned. So it's an action. That doesn't make you the action.
100% doesn't.
That's the difference.
You're not a wicked person. That's it. You're not a wicked. You're doing wicked things, but you're not a wicked person. The Eibishter didn't create anybody wicked.
Amen.
God did not create anybody wicked. Not even Haman. The Eibishter doesn't create wickedness. That's it. People do wickedness. But the Eibishter didn't create anybody wicked. So everybody to his source is not wicked. He does a lot of wicked things. And sometimes he does a wicked thing that cannot be rectified. And therefore the Torah tells you, you have to put him to death. You have to eradicate this wickedness because it's just impossible that the world should go on with such a wickedness in their midst, in our midst. But a person, a human being, was not created that he is in his core wicked.
You're talking about the soul, like you're distinguishing between the
Yeah.
and the neshama.
100%. So there's a great difference. Yeah, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Therefore, the truth is, how do you judge wickedness? Is there a person in the world that not the Russia? So everybody's wicked. So what's the difference between? That's why it says that you shouldn't judge anybody. Because what's the difference if you are one sin, you have 20 million sins? There's no difference. You're Russia. You're Russia. The Alter Rebbe told a chassid yesterday in the Yom Yom, if you read it, the Alter Rebbe told a chassid that when it comes in the physical world, the physical and the spiritual are so opposite that in the physical world, the Mishnah says, who is wealthy? A person who's happy with what he has. And in the spiritual world, if a person is happy with what he's at, that's the worst deficiency. That's the worst deficiency that you can have, is to say that I'm happy with what I have. So if a person says I'm happy with what he has in the spiritual world, he's already a Rasha. He's a wicked person.
Spiritually, meaning, Diana, I have enough spirituality.
Right? So that's a defect. That's a rush and a defect in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, that's the worst kind of attitude you can have, that I'm finished, I'm accomplished, I'm happy with my spiritual life, I'm satisfied. In the physical world, that's the best. Right? And there should be no end. To spirituality, there's no end. And we should try to keep on doing better and better. In the spiritual world, we should never be satisfied in our spiritual existence. We should always try to do more. The Rebbe would say that when the person would come tell the Rebbe, I'm satisfied, he would talk to the Rebbe, I'm satisfied with you. The Rebbe, I'm not satisfied. How can you tell me, I'm not satisfied, I'm not satisfied, I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied. Whatever I've done, I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied, I want more. One more. Why should I be satisfied in my avodah, my life, in the service of God, in the service of others? How can one be satisfied in that concept? It's impossible. That's it. That's it. 100%. But that satisfaction shouldn't bring you depression. What brings us depression is not being satisfied in our physical work and thinking that we're not humans, we're not good. That's the problem. We're not good. We're not perfect. Oh, look, God's punishing me, and this, and all these expressions that I hear go through my ears. No, maybe she loves everybody. Everybody has to be happy with his lot, and we should continue to thrive spiritually. To continue to be better. Yeah, this is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to accomplish. But it's something that really is important to us to accomplish this concept within our lives. And the Eibishter gave us that capability. The Eibishter gave us that capability to do. Time flies when you're having fun. So, okay, we'll continue. And God give us all a wonderful week and a wonderful Chodesh. If anybody wants to write a letter to the Rebbe, I'm going tomorrow to New York, tomorrow afternoon. For Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe's yahrzeit, so I'm going to be going tomorrow night to New York. If you want to write for me a letter, you can bring it tomorrow to Chabad or email to me. Yes. And you can send it to me, zalmanbookert@yahoo.com, and I'll gladly bring it on Tuesday, Be'ezrat Hashem, with the help of God, to the Ohel on Tuesday morning. Have a wonderful and beautiful day. Wonderful.
Thank you, Rabbi.
God bless you.